Yes, I did one pizza delivery scene, and this was years ago.
Oh,
And
this one.
the house was fucking incredible. Like literally, you could have made one of us an architect, or like that's how dope the house was. It was in L.A. and it was like
They flew you way to LA to deliver a pizza?
and dick, but the pizza, it literally, I was like, that's what y'all want, because they also didn't give me wardrobe. Like they didn't tell me ahead of time.
You didn't have a uniform?
I look like how I look right now, except it wasn't an RFF shirt. It might have been a music is my weapon shirt.
They didn't even have like a porn pizzas, porn Papa pizzas.
They have
Papa porn
pop your
pizza.
coochie, Johns.
Pop your coochie, John. Hey, John, pop your coochie. But listen, we hear from some of our colleagues in the industry, they be so mad, like, oh, I came out to LA to film school and LA just eats you up. But then you see the work that they do when they have a budget and a house. It's like, how the fuck you thought you was gonna survive in real Hollywood with that bullshit ass script? You would be wasting, you know how many budget you would be blowing?
That is not Get Out. That is not Friday.
No.
Like I look at films that made it, that did like, more like mainstream films that made it, that had small budgets, and I was like, y'all had amazing scripts, ideas, or
Equipment,
your director
right?
not even just equipment, like the director of photography was super creative or whatever. But I do think, and to some of the people's credit, they can only shoot what that company has ordered from them. So it's the companies that make the same cookie cutter shit over and over again, and they do shit like, I don't know. Let's just say it's pizza delivery scene. So we'll do one that's straight. We'll do one that's gay. We'll do one that's lesbian. We'll do one that's trans, and literally have the same script, same location,
house,
same set, same shots. Not even like down to the exact same shots. Like you could find with some of these companies, you can find the same exact scene 4 times, 5 times even. And then they wonder why people are unimaginative sexually, because when they go to the places that they're going to get some ideas and imagination, that shit is unimaginative.
I could almost see the closet of the person who creates that business model. It's like 10 khaki pants, 4 blue shirts, 3 white shirts, and 2 pairs of loafers. I ain't saying who. But you see him though, don't you?
I don't know why I'm picturing him like that episode of Atlanta where he had the movie studio.
Don't bring that. Don't bring that wicked show up.
Yo, that was my show, man.
That show.
I was hoping they would have more of them shits.
It stirs something in me.
I know.
It's very good, but it's like it's so good that it's bad for me.
But that even leads to kind of like what we were just saying. Like, it's a creative spin. Like, parts of it are funny. Other parts are very, like, Twilight Zone-ish and shit like that. Touches on topics of the day.
Yeah.
Some real shit. Like, anybody who's been in the music business, like, yo, that whole season when they was in Europe was just so on point. But I digress.
That motherfucker is talented and shouldn't be. You wouldn't get a pizza porn shoot out of him, even if he didn't make it to Atlanta or
the
Hollywood.
pizza do some wild shit at the fucking end.
That's when you're gonna get popped that coochie pepperoni.
Pop that Papa John.
So we are back.
We are. You're looking magnificent.
Thank you.
Blue.
Thank you. I like the way that you've been looking at me.
I'm trying to do my best to keep my eyes up
Don't.
too.
Don't.
It's very busty.
Fail. I want you to. Thank you. I am very busty. You know what that means?
You're full.
Your kids are hungry.
That's also true.
So we are doing something slightly different today. Your idea, give credit where it's due. So you thought it would be a great idea for us to interview each other.
I do.
Because people have done such a horrible job at it. That's not what you said.
That is not what I said.
Okay, well, what you said out of your mouth.
I wanted us to ask questions that go deeper into some of the questions that people have asked us before, You know, because it's funny, like when I do my Fetish Fridays, I get asked literally. So there's certain people, and you know who you are. You ask me the same question every single week. And if I have answered it once, I'm not answering it again. And if I haven't answered it yet, I'm not going to. Because there are certain questions that's just like, come on,
yeah,
Google.
yeah.
But I do think that usually when we're on a show, it's our first time on that show, so they have to ask a certain amount of surface to introduce us to their audience. And then it's like, but I want to go real deep on this shit though.
Well, that's one thing, right? Also, we can be very, very challenging to interview when we have something that we want to talk about. And and I think that today, because we do know how to work each other well, and we do.
That's why you wore that dress to interview me?
That's, of course. I was like, first of all, blue is calming, right? So you ain't going to get rah-rah on my set. And I wanted to give you somewhere nice to descend to if you need like a moment to gather yourself in my bosom.
Like you can just lay down.
You could just lay down.
Lay down in the bosom.
All right. So are you ready to get started?
I was say, is that a Gayle King tactic?
No.
I'm ready. Oh, you did do them on the cards.
I did.
Oh, you're way more professional than me.
Yeah, and let me interject real fast. So when we were on the emotion picture where I met you, my brother Victorious told me that he thought that I would become sort of like the like a sex version of Oprah, or you've said like a black, younger, more thriving, hot version of Dr. Ruth. And I always thought that was really cool because I wanted to go to school as a communications major.
Okay.
And then I got pregnant and ended up in sociology and social work. It all worked out, right? It all worked out. Here we are. But I always thought like, oh, that's nice. Like people see something in me that I guess I saw in myself. And so when we were like, oh, I'm going to get to interview you, I was like, oh, like what would I do on my set if this were my show? So look.
Oh, wow.
Look.
That's official. It
is, right? But they'd be like way cooler cards. But I would have the logo of my guest, so that you're getting your branding while you're on the show, and that you're also looking at something that's comforting and confident. Like this is
It's my shit.
That's your shit, right? You know what you're saying.
Oh man, so much pressure for when I interview you.
That's why I always go first. You taught me that. I'll open the show.
But don't worry, I have all yours saved in an end-to-end encrypted conversation.
You got my shit on WhatsApp and Proton Mail, Telegram.
Yeah, one of them.
You're on Truth Social?
No.
Oh, okay. No.
That's not encrypted at all.
Okay.
All their information's in China.
Along with yours on TikTok? Okay, we can go all day. We're both avoiding getting into this interview. So let's go right into it. But I want to preface that I know you don't know any of the questions.
I didn't. I specifically told you I did not want to know them ahead of time.
And I really wanted to ask, I want to ask you things that either I don't know the answer to, I want to know more, or I really feel like there's a benefit to you sharing this. And the benefit may not even be for you. It may be for other people to hear your answers. And that being said, if it doesn't feel comfortable or you feel like, I need to put myself first, like, pass.
Okay. I'm with that. The one thing I also have to remember is if I storm out of this fucking interview, I'm just going to see you at home. Well, I'm going to see you even in the car on the way home. So
you're going to storm out and pull the car up.
So there's that.
And don't break nothing on your way out because it's coming out of your budget. All right. No, I don't think there's anything like that. So I have some little random games.
Okay.
This one's called Stop, Look, and Listen. Grab your phone and tell me what tabs are open on your Chrome and your Safari.
All right, nothing on my Chrome.
Oh, you don't have Chrome on your phone?
I do. I just never
use it.
All right. Well, this is crazy because I have so many. So do you want me to pick a certain number?
Nope.
Or all of them?
Call them out.
All right. FedEx, OnlyFans, Houses by Frank Lloyd Wright, Sotheby's.
Sotheby's. Oh.
Looking into some electric fetish equipment.
Oh, okay.
The nominations for the TEA show, which people should be nominating
Okay.
me and my scenes for.
How do they do that?
I think it's actually over now.
Okay, so when you get the nomination, they should be voting for it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
A friend of mine is an interior designer, Ashley Rose.
Okay.
So I'm looking at her Sacred Space website. Shout out.
Okay, Ashley.
What else I got?
Ashley Rose for our Sotheby home.
There you go.
Once you win this T award, okay. I see my future.
Kink in Costa Rica.
Of course.
An article in the Atlantic by Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Of course.
About the case for reparations.
We getting them?
They avoiding that conversation.
We putting our Sotheby's house on our 40 acres?
The donation website for the Justice Committee.
Okay.
Make sure that y'all do so, and also, listen to the song Homegoing.
It was Giving Tuesday.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So there's so much more in here. I could just keep going.
But wow, that is pretty telling.
Oh, the last one is this whole article also in the Atlantic talking about all the founding fathers of America who owned slaves.
Oh, okay. All of them? Yeah. All right. Thank you for sharing that.
Got you.
All right, cool. Now that we know what takes up space on your phone, therefore takes up space in your mind, I would like you to talk to me and kind of walk me through your current artistic process. Like, what are you bringing to the screen right now as a performer? What are you bringing to the screen right now as a director? Like, give me the juice. Give me the juice.
As a performer, I have just been interested in being free. Mm-hmm. And by free, just being myself. Mm-hmm. Like not trying to push myself to do shit I'm not interested in, but things that I am interested in, if it's an idea or a desire to like fully experience it and explore it. Also, trying to find new positions and new ways that feel good for me.
Okay.
And also different ways of pleasuring my scene partners. But I feel like that changes all the time anyway, because everybody's different. But honestly, my mind has been on directing a lot. And that goes for whether it's directing a self-shot scene, directing a scene that I'm in, but I have a camera person, and then directing a scene that I'm not in, where I'm also doing camera. So it's like 3 separate ones.
Okay, directing a scene that you're in and you're also doing camera.
Yeah, like a self-shot, kind of like setting up tripods and how to do different angles and make sure that it still looks dope. Because like sex tapes, like I fans love my sex tapes, but I'm like, oh, well, how can I expand on the idea of a sex tape, right? Because they know the camera's there, so I can freak it in as many different ways as I want. So like one I've been even more cognizant about doing is, as you know personally, I love eating pussy. But in most porn out there is not a woman's POV of a man eating a pussy. Right. So I've been wanting to get that involved more and find different ways to
get that angle.
Not just get the angle, but let whoever the scene partner is know, like, what are you interested in seeing when you're doing this POV? Yeah. Not so much what I'm telling you to do. Just let me know so I can light it. You
know what I'm interested in seeing? When I'm my POV for that? The back of my head. I want to see God. But but let me ask this and also give you sort of like I want to give people a plug to people that are watching that are directors and or performers know what you're talking about. But consumers, fans, I want them to like hear what you're talking about and go see. Like, it's like always the whole like trifecta, the whole experience. So Tell me a scene that you directed and you were in it. And you shot it. Like the whole... Give me one example of that they can go and take a look at.
One of my favorite ones that I did with that was Ethical Sluts. Because it also encompassed what I want as a director, period, which is the sapiosexual aspect of porn, which is lost or non-existent in most porn. Like, for me, trying to find a way to not only, if I'm in it, but also if I'm not in it, to have the performers have some sort of connection, an intellectual connection besides just the desire of fucking on camera.
Right.
It creates the same kind of feeling that people get when they watch, I don't know, a romantic thriller comedy in the mainstream world, where you care about what happens to those characters. You want to see them together. You want them to fuck. You want them to feel good. You know what I'm saying? So it's like in Ethical Sluts, Raina Ryder, who was my co-star, was actually in school at the time.
In college, let's be clear.
Yeah, she was in college at the time. And she was going to be a phlebotomist. So I was just like, I want that to be the basis of our scene. So we're going to have a whole conversation about school and sex work and philosophy, and please throw in any of your expertise or what you're learning about in there. But the whole premise of it was that she was late with doing her work.
Right.
So which led to me like having to spank her with the book and all this other shit. But like shooting it, I was like, how am I going to be able to get a shot of us talking that's semi-interesting? So I kind of focused more on her, so that way I could
be everywhere. Yeah.
But then the shots of us fucking and the BDSM stuff, I was like, all the talking is in black and white. And then once she gets spanked for the first time is when the color comes in, and then there's like all this bright light happening. So I was like, I just wanted to do something that also looked cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's another thing. Like, porn is shot really boring to me.
Yeah.
Like, there's no use of shadow. There's no use of color and light in a way that's interesting to me as a filmmaker.
Right. Nice.
So, like, same thing, like, when I'm not in the scene that I shot with you and Leah Michelle.
So not in the scene, but directing.
Where I'm just directing. The scene that I shot with you and Leah Michelle was that goddess ritual. And I had this idea because of this old ass music video from Diggable Planets. It was the remix of Where I'm From. And I loved that video. It was shot in black and white, but I didn't shoot y'all in black and white. But they had it so like people were still almost like in photographs. And I was like, damn, that would look cool if I shot y'all still like a photograph and then transpose like y'all movement from that thing. Like, it just looked sexy. Y'all had this beautiful attire on, and we had the Buddha face in the back. Like, so it seemed almost like, what's that, transcendental meditation, but sexual. You know, so that was like the whole vibe of it.
It was so beautiful.
But and I'm like, I've never seen a porn shot that way. So I was like, I want to try and shoot stuff that is just different, but it's also sexy as hell at the same time too, because y'all have like this dom sub dynamic in it, and you're like squirting on her and all this other shit. But at the same time, there's a part where y'all are both like perfectly still, and then it fades into you squirting on her. Like, that shit is dope.
Yeah, it was dope.
Like that, I mean, but like that kind of shit get me hype about.
I can hear it.
The art that we make. Just because it's porn don't mean it can't be beautiful.
Give me one other example of you being in the scene, but directing your videographer or your team.
I'm going to use this one because someone had just brought it up to me, and it does have the same element of the sapiosexual. It was Vegas Voyeur with Amira Styles. And we sat and we played this whole game of chess. That was non-scripted. We spoke about it beforehand. Like, she said that she plays chess. I was like, okay, we're going to sit and have a whole game. Whoever wins, wins. If you beat me, you beat me. It don't matter. You know what I'm saying? And have a conversation. And there was nothing scripted about it. We had never had this conversation before. But it's like we're learning about one another. because you learn about somebody from playing chess, period, even if you don't talk.
Right.
But then we're also having this conversation, learning about one another. So that does build a desire for both of us too, because it's like, the sapiosexual aspect of playing chess. But so I had to explain to the camera person, like, no, don't stop. Just record the whole thing. We're not going to change to anywhere else. So feel comfortable, because we're going to be sitting down. So feel comfortable to move around. I personally like this angle and this angle, but if you see another angle that works,
go for it.
I'll trust your eye. So like being able to have that conversation, like I love working with people behind the camera who have like natural eye or ideas, and we could bounce ideas off each other that work within the framework of what we were trying to do. And I feel like that scene, before we even took our clothes off, there was so much tension within the scene, because also the premise of the scene is we're doing this for this voyeur.
Right.
And
so
there's
can bring the
camera,
yeah.
Us, there's all this tension. And then we get to the collaring, and then we get to the spanking, and then we get to one thing after another. And then the crazy shit is just the timing, because we were filming, and there's like a fountain that explodes literally when we're coming at the end. And it wasn't planned that way, but it was kind of like we knew it was there, but we weren't like timing our orgasms. Or
that was God's plan.
Exactly.
Beautiful. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. You get so excited.
I do. I love that aspect.
I hope everybody checks out those scenes.
All three of them.
Yes. And the ones that came before them and the ones after them. All right. So this is kind of a little bit off the cuff, but I'll just ask it. Like, what are men your age supposed to be talking about right now? Like, what should y'all be talking about right now? Because this is like a real. I feel like I feel so. I don't know, which is why I'm going to ask you. It's like women in our 30s, we have like a particular conversation. I'm not in my 30s anymore, but I remember what that like conversation was. It was very particular. You kind of knew if you, like when women tell me like, oh, I'm about to be 30, I'm like, I know exactly what you're thinking. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like to an extent. So like men in their 40s, specifically, I'm going to get very narrow, Black men in their 40s that have highlighted art or that art has been a central figure of their life, not necessarily their bread and butter. But the reason why I'm asking this is because what I said like about women, and kind of I know that. But when we were watching DJ Cassidy's Pass the Mic, and he did one with hip hop artists, and I was like smiling from ear to ear because one, I was excited to just hear the music again in that sort of club mix, matchup. But I was like so happy to see that these men made. I was like, oh, he done gained weight. Oh, he looked good. And so men specifically in hip hop or really any form of art have reached, thank God, many of you have made it to what to us is like, the miracle age of your 40s, which is, it's sad that it's, but it is what it is. And if you made it, it's a wonderful thing. Like, what should y'all be talking about right now?
I mean, my first answer is everything. Like, there's nothing that we shouldn't be talking about. But specifically, I think as Black men, we need to talk about our health. Because, we still have a very low mortality rate and life expectancy. And this is that age where you need to start, going to doctors and getting checked out, because most of us probably didn't have health insurance for most of our lives.
Centering the art part. And,
especially if you were artist, you know what I'm saying? So, your health physically, but also your mental health, because you hit this age and most of us ain't planned for it. I know I ain't ever planned to be 40.
I planned for you to be 40.
I mean, you did, but I mean, but like before I even met you, I remember in my freshman year of high school, they sat us all down. They said, look to your left, look to your right. Someone in here is going to be dead. Or somebody you look at is going to be dead from being murdered. and shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
This is
I
just in
remember
regular
that
public
shit.
school. This wasn't Dare.
No, this is like the random, like a random joint where they just brought, like, it was like a tribunal of black and brown kids that they just brought into the library. Like, I remember that shit.
I wonder if they still do that. That shit can't be legal.
It's funny that I remember that, and I remember from the same thing my homie TJ told somebody to sit their big ass down in the middle of that shit. It's just funny.
TJ, that sounds about right though.
Yep. But I think so. Most of us we think like, yeah, I'm not gonna see past 18. I'm not gonna see past 21. So we don't sit here and plan like a 501k or savings or all these other things. And then also,
I'm sorry, you are such a rapper that you had to like take a 401k and throw another 100 on top of it. Like a 501k. All right, go ahead.
I ain't had none of them shits.
I love it.
You know, like we wasn't getting jacked by FICA for our tour money. You know what I'm saying? So it's like all these things where the future wasn't planned for, and now the future is literally now. Yeah. And some of us, you know, we have kids or godkids, nieces and nephews or just other loved ones that we want to leave what we worked so hard for to, or actually spend some time enjoying the fact that we made it to this age. Word. So taking care of your physical and mental health is important. And then specifically for artists, I just think of like, if you're an artist, you grow. You know, like, not to say that if you had a hit, you're going to rely on that hit. That hit's still making you money. That shit is still now. But just as an artist, like, to be able to find ways to continue to either expand the medium that you're in or cross over into different mediums and just continue to let your creative mind flourish. Because, you know, when I look at generations before us and I look at somebody like, I don't know, like Miles Davis or somebody whose career spanned decades, or like Louis Armstrong or Duke Ellington, they had decades and decades. So now I look at hip hop artists who have the opportunity to do the same thing. How have you grown as a man? How have you grown as a human being through your art? You know what I'm saying? So I'm interested in that conversation.
Okay. Well, guide them up and have that conversation. I want to be there. You have it at the house. I'll bring out a charcuterie board.
Oh shit!
Thank you for sharing that. Speaking of your art, what's on the up and up with your music art?
Oh, I got an EP and another album that I hope will be released very soon. Okay. I'm gotta find a new studio to record out of.
Okay. All right. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good.
Yeah. Okay, good.
How about yourself?
I feel great. I'm enjoying this.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. What's the scariest, riskiest, most nerve-wracking part of your job? Because oftentimes you get asked about the industry, right? And or you're speaking on behalf of like performers as a whole. But what's a risk to you, just even between you and I, like what's risky for you is not risky for me and vice versa. So how would you answer that?
Closed-minded people, I would say, it's dangerous when you see, you know, somebody like the dude that just shot up that club in Colorado, who harbors hate or resentment because of who you choose to love, how you choose to live your life, the color of your skin, your gender.
Your job puts all of that on display.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And both of them do. Because through music, I spoke out a lot in regards to police brutality and so on and such forth. And a lot of people don't realize, yo, them police be calling you. They be calling your house.
You was Hassan Minaj before Hassan Minaj was. You was Hassan Salam, and y'all was having similar experiences. He's a little bit younger than you, I believe, but y'all were having similar experiences.
Yeah, my first album got held up at the border because it was pressed in Canada, and one of the song titles got it held up at the border, and I had a lot of strange visitors and people trying to have conversations with me or messages and emails and things like that. So, and actually, yo, shout out to Hassan Minaj. That motherfucker real as fuck. That dude is, yo, much respect and nothing but blessings to him and his family.
Yes, one time for being a
word. So yeah, I think that's it, because it's like I truly believe that as long as your way of life and who you are doesn't impede or hinder the progress and life of other people, it's live and let be. But there are people out there who, I don't know, maybe it's partially because there's a part of them that wants to live in a way that they're afraid to live, or they're just brought up with more hate in their heart than understanding or love, that then they lash out. And that part, I think, is the most dangerous aspect. But I was raised by women who were just like, we gonna get this progress. Like the greatest, my two quotes I live my life by. One is Frederick Douglass: "If there is no struggle, there can be no progress." And then Jackie Robinson, which is I'm paraphrasing. I'm gonna fuck up the quote, but it's basically, a life is unimportant except in the effect that it has on other lives. And if you can't stand up for who you are and what you believe in, and those things are good, then what's the point?
I don't know about that struggle one, but I can get down with the Jackie Robinson quote. Thank you for sharing that. That is really that is very scary. And you get some of those messages still not about
to
music.
This day.
Yeah. Oh, now about both.
Yeah, about both now.
Whew. All right. Let me take you into music and health and
I know, it's like a
your sex work.
Deep dive.
It is a deep dive. I had my spreadsheets out last night.
See, I learned the business terminology. I've been around you long enough.
You sure have. And I've been around you long enough to ask this question.
Oh, shit.
No. I'm taking you into the academic space, because I mean, you were doing education in a different way in decolonizing, art before you were doing it as a sex educator. I know that you taught for London School of Economics. Did I get that right?
Yeah. Proud of that one. That one sounds fancy.
It is fancy. How many of y'all taught at London School of Economics? Okay, and you taught up and down the West Coast. I mean, you were on tour with your from spirituals to hip hop.
Yeah. From
the spirituals to hip hop. And then I was like, oh, that sounds cute. And then I got on your coattails and you took me on that with my own workshops. But all that to say, you've been doing this for a long time. And so I did want to talk a little bit about your work in academia, but from a particular way.
Okay.
So I'll just read this, it's a little bit easier. You talk about people needing to do American history education for sex education, like to obtain sex education in this country, like contextually in the culture that we live in, sex in the culture that we live in, you have to understand American history as part of it, or like to enhance it or what have you. Versus reading like all the how-to books and the video sex tutorials. And there's like, they're fun, they're freeing, they are very important.
They're good to know too, for sure.
They are good to know. It kind of reminds me a little bit about like when we opened up a gym, and it's like, yeah, you could know all the exercise and what to do physically, but until you actually learn the body and how nutrients work and how muscles, bones, etc. move and don't move, all those exercises really don't. I mean, they mean something, but you're not going to get the outcome, the full outcome that you want. So I guess I want you to talk about like, what do you mean by that in terms of incorporating history into how that yields sexual liberation? It's a big question. Take whatever pieces of it you want to.
Well, the how-to is only a part of sex. Like, nobody just shows up to fuck and be like, penis and vagina and or penis and anus or penis and penis. You know what I'm saying? Like no one's sitting there just explaining that shit to somebody. You know what I mean? Like, but people do share their fantasies, their desires. People do share their histories of trauma or abuse and their experiences. Like so many people are focused right now on a body count, which is the dumbest fucking shit. But they're more focused on the number instead of the actual experience. Like if someone tells you, hey, I've been with however many people.
I'm like, what's your satisfaction rate?
Out of all of those experiences you had, how many were actually good?
Right.
How many were bad? Right. How come? And I do think that now, especially, we're seeing a lot more people's interest in fetishes and kinks and exploring sex. Well, some of these fantasies and fetishes come from some real fucked up places.
Right.
So you should know what you're walking into. If someone's like, hey, I'm a queen of spades. Fuck that mean? Oh, that means that you're not really interested in me as a person. You're interested in my skin color and fetishizing me and using my sex for your twisted racial racist fantasy. Or
but you wouldn't know that
if you had no context in the history of you know, it's and things are presented. If you're Ron DeSantis, this is a CRT alert. You know, you're presented with no context for why things are in this country because people are ashamed of the history, or they want to sugarcoat the history so they look better. Or
so that they can continue
to do the racist fucked up shit. Right. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So in some of these circumstances, you don't know you're getting used in a fucked up way. And it's gonna come back to hurt you or somebody else because being racially fetishized is not a positive experience. Right. You know, so or they think, well, you cool with this, we can step it up to this next shit. You know what I'm saying? And so like just for example with that, right? You know, so much is focused on, and rightfully so, overseers, slave owners, roving white men, bands going and raping black women and black men and children during slavery, but also mistresses and white women raped slaves as well. And that fetishization is what led to Queen of Spades. So it's like, you don't want to perpetuate that shit. And there are some people out there who might think, you know, black men are cool or black people are cool and want to be around us and like us and don't want to be racist. Yeah. So you should know that shit too, white folk. It shouldn't just be, the onus shouldn't just be on black folk to avoid your ass. You shouldn't do that shit. Right. And without any proper context or historical information, people just miss out on that shit.
I love it when, you know, when you are teaching a workshop, or I don't even, like we do like an impact play, and people are like, I really love the way, you know, I love how smart you are and how you, are there any books about BDSM that you think I should read to be a better dom? And you're like, the narrative of a slave. Or you're just like, and so I know I understand that, and but I just thought that there would be a good opportunity for you to make that like clear connection.
Yeah, for sure. And even outside of just American history, if you're going to learn about BDSM, you should also know about the Spanish Inquisition.
Well, tell them why.
Some or even just torture devices throughout history. You know, like everybody's like, oh, I love your scene with Misty Stone where you fuck her in the pillory. Okay, cool. Do you know what a pillory is? Do you know where it comes from? You know, and people don't know, like that shit was some shit that was used and it would be put in the town square, and that you might be the public drunkard or something like that, and they would have you in that shit, and people would come point their finger at you.
Not the public drunkard in the pillory.
So like,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So you might be so like in those kind of situations, a pillory was used for torture method, but it wasn't a torture method to the extent of like an iron lung or something like that. It was used more for like public drunkard. Like, and then people would come and point their finger at you and say all this shit. And it would be like in the town square for everybody to see. So like there is a part of it for people who might want to be humiliated. In that, there's a certain sexual humiliation that comes from that. Or also because for other people, it's like, yo, this shit features my face perfectly.
Right.
and I'm in a position that I like. But you should know both if you're going to put somebody into that shit.
Yeah.
Because why you'll be a better dom is if you understand their reasoning for being in that, how your role will be better for their experience.
I learned something new. Yes, very cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What's your go-to prayer when you're stressed? Like mine, I'm always like, Heavenly Father, ooh, in my head.
Go-to prayer is the Fatiha.
Yeah. So are you reciting it in your head?
When I'm stressed, it's probably not that. It's probably more like, Lord.
That's what I was curious about.
Yo, please let me calm down.
Okay.
Let me not wild out.
Okay.
Let me have a constructive interaction with this person, even though they need a mud puddle stomped in the side of them.
You get to reason with God.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
And it usually works.
Me, I like take control. Father.
Take the wheel.
Father. All of a sudden, it's like God can be a man.
Just in that time.
Just in this moment. Cool. All right. So, which brings me into talking a little bit about your faith. All right. So, whatever you're, open to sharing, I'm really curious to know how being a Muslim man has impacted your life. And then like all these questions kind of start big, and then I want you to sort of narrow into a perspective of specifically here, how that has had an impact on your life, and narrow it down to your sexual expression. And then I'd like for you to tell me about a positive fan interaction.
Okay.
As it relates to your faith.
Okay. That's a heavy one. For me, when I was younger, when I first taken my Shahada, it provided a lot of structure that I didn't have.
How old were you?
I took my Shahada when I was 13.
Is that the time that most young men, boys do?
No, I think more people more around the age of like 17 and 18, something like that, I would say. More people I know.
Okay.
For me, it was definitely like, it helped me with everything. Like the structure helped me with my training, with all the other things I was doing. And as I got older, it also provided me with more interest in gaining as much knowledge about as many things as humanly possible. Unfortunately, we live in a world where people only see certain reflections of Islam that are very limiting to people in regards to information.
Okay.
But Christianity has done the same thing at different times. There was priests in the Roman Catholic Church that called the printing press the devil. You know what I'm saying? So I think, every faith has people who are bad actors in it. But for me, it was more in the sense of like, learning about stories about people like, let's say like Mansa Musa and the Islamic empires of Western Africa made me like, wow, like our ancestors mapped the stars and created algebra, and there's science in the Quran if you read it. All these kind of things made me just want to learn more and experience more. And then learning and building with people like that are in Sufism or 5% or more Science Temple and all these other things just helped me learn more and more about history that I wasn't learning in school. And also from there, you get to like, I don't know, with like Sufism and things like that, you do get to learn like about romance. Something that people don't ever think about when they think about Islam. You know what I'm saying? So I think that it opened up my mind to that. And for that positive experience with fans, I do often have people who hit me up and just from other countries who are like, I can't express myself sexually where I live. And I appreciate being able to watch you explore and express, and my fantasies go with you. Or even people here who are just like, you know, especially I get some messages from Muslim women who are just like, yeah, like we need that shit.
Yeah.
And people need to be more open. And I don't know, I meet more people in the industry who are actually Muslim too, but they're not, they don't speak about it. So I wouldn't say nothing about that. Because I mean, everybody's faith to me is also, that's a personal thing. And if you are comfortable with sharing it with other people, that's when all of a sudden people usually want to attack.
Right.
But there are definitely other people who are like, yeah, and they're appreciative of it.
Nice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So usually when we sit down and people ask us about our family, or when we've had the kids over the last couple of years, people have, you know, they'll say, I don't know, they'll ask about being a parent, and the sort of like zone in on me, which is, you know, it's fine, it's natural. Like I had them, you know, oh, you must be tired, kids, breastfeeding, all that other kind of stuff. But we rarely get to hear like men's birth story, right? Or just like something that was important to them, or the feelings, the emotions, or even, you know, something crazy that happened that maybe the mom doesn't even know, because you run in point in them type of situations. And like how important, you know, everybody's role is in helping to bring a child to life. And when I look up birth stories, it's all women telling their birth story, and they should, and they fucking should. It should.
Sometimes.
Yes, they should. But I know how important it is for me, not necessarily like on a podcast or anything, but just for people after we've had the kids to ask them, like, what was that experience like for you? Or to be able to share that, because it is so big, such a life-changing moment for you as a parent. But the minute that it happens, everything gets shifted to that child. And so you have like this amazing experience that you're just left to, you know, process or to have on your own. So I wanted to ask you to tell me something, anything, or everything from your birthing story with your children. Either one of them.
Nothing in particular.
It's all on you. No pressure.
The thing about the births of our youngest two that I always think about is the sharp contrast between having a birth at the hospital and having a birth in the birthing center. Okay. Because for me, in all aspects, and I understand what you're saying with like, you know, like we should all talk about it and stuff, but for me, I'm fine with it, because my focus during both of those times is making sure you're as comfortable and I'm as attentive to everything that you need as possible. And then once that baby is born, that they ain't trying to run off with the shit, or you know what I'm saying? Like take the placenta and sell that shit on the black market or some shit. You know what I mean? Like those kind of things. And doing it in a hospital is cold. And I don't just mean the temperature, like how they treat you, and watching how they treat you specifically, and then being able to have this conversation with other women about how they felt treated in hospitals. To whereas it's specifically when I've spoken to Black and brown women about it, they have not had good experiences in hospitals. And it's been like not being listened to in regards to knowing your own body, and we experienced that in the hospital. Or kind of feeling like these people are just leaning on you. So like with the birth of our son, it was so fucking stressful dealing with the hospital. But at the same time, you know, no matter what, if you born Black in America, you're a miracle birth to me. Word. And being a part of that miracle, you do have to like say that prayer in your head so you don't wild out and get arrested at the fucking hospital for them being rude to your partner while she's trying to give birth, or trying to force drugs on her, or not listening that you need something, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like that shit is wild, frustrating, but you have to be in a space that you already know, like, yo, if you turn up in here, they gonna say what they gonna say, and your ass not gonna be able to be there for the birth of your baby.
But listen, you know how nuanced that is, because usually when men are asked this question, it's sort of like, especially Black men, it's like, I was praying for a safe delivery, you know, or, you know, like praying that everything goes right, praying that she gonna make it. But as you're talking, here comes that like stream of like that constant baseline of racism having, you know, where it's like you're also at the same time like hoping that things don't go the same way it would
left the center.
Yeah, you know, like, yeah, like as if you're in the airport and like, okay, I gotta watch what I'm doing because, you know, that's crazy.
But the birth of our newest edition, being that we did a birthing center and literally we started labor in our house, and then you walk through the door, the water broke. We was there with all our kids, and I mean, it happened during COVID, so it's also like all that stressor, you know what I'm saying? But we had our immediate loved ones there, you know, like that experience was way better, you know, and like one of my homies, shout out to Nelson and Andrea.
Ooh, soon come.
I said to him, because he was like, hey, you did the birthing center, what do you think? And this is one of them conversations that men gotta have at this age. And it was just like, yo, B, if you can do that shit at home or a birthing center, do not go to a fucking hospital. If you can, you know, there are certain circumstances where you have to. And hopefully you have the best experience you can. But that's what I think about it.
Okay. It's
and honestly, there's no joy like it, and it's worth not turning up on the people so you can be there for the joy.
It's just, I mean, I just find it so interesting, like that stress is even there then.
Yeah.
You know? Well, I'm glad you were perfect. You were a perfect partner to give birth with.
Oh.
Yeah. And I'm happy to be a part of your birthing story.
Okay.
All right, last question.
Last one, we made it.
All right, so
we made it.
We did make it. Absolutely despise when people are interviewing us and they go from like the sexiest, dirtiest thing into our family.
Which
it's just like, so when I was putting the questions together, I was like, well, I don't know what his birthing answer is going to be, and I want to end on a high note, but I damn sure don't want to go back to the beginning. So this is hard. This journalism shit is hard.
It's a skill.
So this morning, when I was awake all night long, this isn't what kept me up all night, but I was just going down the rabbit hole, and there was a GQ couples quiz featuring Lauren Nicole London, and I know her middle name because this was one of the quiz questions. And
oh no, you're about to ask me some
I'm not.
shit.
I'm not.
Shit.
And the late Nipsey Hussle. And yeah, it was like about 5 years into their relationship, and it was really cute, and I got a little emotional. I wouldn't say that I'm a big fan of either one of them. Like I appreciate his art. I know her from a couple of movies, but their love story is, you know, especially in his passing, as someone who is like deeply in love with their partner and creates work with their partner, is like that really resonated with me. And I got emotional watching because I'm like, oh my gosh, she has to look back at all these interviews. But then I was like, well, I wonder if she finds like comfort in looking at like the little idiosyncrasies between each other. So he had referenced that she was asking certain questions that were like sort of like yielding him to give her praise. And I was just like, oh yeah, this is good. And he referenced like, this is turning into a Lauren praise session. And I was like, oh shit, like, I think some of my questions are like that. Because like, you get a chance to ask your partner anything in front of the world. It's like, well, I want him to say this because I want these bitches to know, like, this is this is the real deal. Like, tell him. But so I was like, okay, fuck it. Let me take my moment and turn this into a Jasmine praise session from the perspective of, I would love for you to answer this question in front of me in the world. How do you love me?
I can't think of a way that I don't.
Perfect answer. Cut the cord.
No, like I find, even we've been together over a decade, you know what I'm saying? And I still find new things where I'd be like, oh, you went to that? Oh, that's cool. Like, even if I'm not, it's just like, I learned some new shit about you today. Or something you might have done 10 years ago that you flip now. It's like, oh, she's grown, or she's adapted, or she done flipped up on some shit. I like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I never had a relationship long enough that I truly had to grow as an individual and in a couple with somebody. So like, I witness your growth every day. And every day I am impressed and in awe of you as a human being, as a lover, as a mother, as a business person. Like, I'll be saying, like, you know, I wish back in the day when I was doing more music shit, like if I had you on the team, like you'd have been out here cookie lions in that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's being able to see your partner. Like, I definitely am truly a believer that, like, if you're lucky enough, you find a partner who is better than you in areas that either were underdeveloped or not your bag, or just some shit you ain't know. And like, all of those levels and places where you are either like just naturally better or have learned a skill that I haven't, not only are you just better at it, but you're also willing to share that information to help me get better at it, which, you know, that's a partnership. That's not even just a relationship. That's a partnership. Like, I want us both to be sharp and still. So like in that aspect, and just for like loving you, I truly realize, like, love is one of those concepts like God that you don't always completely fathom its depth or its extent. But when you're there and you're like, oh shit, like I done taken a whole nother leap and bound with my understanding of what love or what God is. And I'm even more in awe today than I was yesterday. And that's how it is loving you.
Thank you. Y'all heard that?
Heard that shit?
That's actually for our kids, though, honestly.
This ain't even gonna make the podcast.
It may not. It may not. It's for our kids. Like that's what they're a part of. That's what they get to be a part of. And I do feel that. I feel that you love me. Like, and I feel the growth in our love. And I learned a lot of new things about you, and I hope the people listening did as well and appreciate you that much more. Like I did.
Thank you.
We did.
I appreciate the in-depth questions. Everybody, definitely, if you are at home or wherever, go watch those 3 scenes that we were talking about. All the other scenes, go stream the music. Catch up on all the episodes that you missed. And coming up soon is my questions for Jet Setting Jasmine.
I think we're out of time, though.
I mean, that's for the next episode. But I feel kind of crazy because I'm like, yo, my questions was like, if a train is leaving Atlanta at 9 a.m. in the morning and the other... My questions are not this good, so
Here, you can take my dad.
I'm gonna read your shits. I'm just gonna cross out my name and put your name on it. But yo, thank y'all so much for tuning in. I hope y'all got to know some more, and we gonna catch y'all on the next one.
Bye.
Peace.